we pass away, when we die, however you want to look at that transition. We're not dead. We don't stop. Our journey's not over. This 3D experience is a tiny, tiny, tiny drop in our soul journey. And when we transition, we continue our soul journey. So our ancestors in soul form are still continuing their journey. And our lineage, out in the geodynamic, energetic formation of the earth, are like these little rivers of energy that are earthbound. They are bound to the earth. They are generated from the earth, flowing in all the directions. Okay. Our lineages each belong on one of those frequencies. So we inherit that frequency, that lineage.
Hello, everybody. We're back, and this time our podcast is about lineage. To make everybody aware that we are a part of a lineage, and that being a part of the lineage will also mean that you have to take care of your part of the lineage. Of course, you have a mother and a father, and it's about the two lineages, the mother one and the father's one. What important to know about a lineage is that this lineage is conscious. That this lineage has an. It depends, of course, in what kind of family you are born in, but this lineage, or both of them, can be a big part of your life at this moment. Sometimes when I'm trying to explain what a lineage is, I see a river. And you have a mother river and you have a father river. And you are one drop in that river. And when I'm looking at your mother lineage, your mother was a drop, her mother, but she has also a father. So that can be that you have already different smaller rivers in one big river, but we don't want to make it very difficult. We call that just one river. And at your father's side, it's of course the same thing. All kinds of drops in your river. And of course, the younger generations belongs also to this river. The younger generations who are born already, but also the ones who still have to be born. And we, at least that's what I'm thinking, the people who likes to look at this kind of podcast are people who are most of the time quite sensitive, have a higher frequency. And it's for those people who have to deal with the lineage the most. That means you are the drop in the river. The higher you make your frequency, the better the ripple effect of what you can do for your lineage backwards in time and forwards in time. So that's the most important part. What you have to do is higher your frequency, and then you can heal a lot of things on this river, on this lineage already. It depends, of course, what kind of garbage the previous generation has thrown in your river. That can be an enormous amount. or it can be a little bit. It depends, of course, in what kind of family you are born. I think Robin has to say something about it.
Do. So I would like to add that when we come in to a family, when we're born, we choose our family before we get here. And when we come in, we take on the frequency of that lineage. So we don't just take on the DNA and the genetics. There is a frequency that goes with that lineage, and we vibrate in that frequency. We take that on both from our mother and our father, and then that becomes our river, like you're saying. And in our lineage, what makes up that frequency that we inherit is all of the decisions made, not made, all of the emotions that were felt, maybe healed and unhealed. Would be a good way of looking at that. So things that left unfinished, because we talk about lineage and ancestral lineage. You'll hear a lot about ancestral karma, and I kind of want to touch on that a little bit because people talk about karma like it's a checks and balances, like a punishment and a rewards, and that's not really how karma works. Karma is simply it's a law of cause and effect. What you put out will come back. Sometimes it's like it always is more expansive than what you put out. So what you put out comes back to you maybe tenfold is a good way to look at that. And so when we come in and we take on our lineage, the frequency, that frequency is the basic coding inside of our bodies that we have inherited. And what we're agreeing to do is to maybe complete what our ancestors could not complete. It's really what we're doing. And think I've always seen genetics and inheritance as kind of like a relay race, where it's like those who came before us did as much as they could, and then they hand the baton off to the next one, and they do as much as they can, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what Clementine you were touching on is a lot of people who are watching podcasts like ours um, are highly sensitive people. Well, those of us who are the highly sensitive ones, we know that we came here to break cycles. There's a lot of us in this position. Our viewers will be the people who um, had no lessons to come back and learn. It wasn't about coming back and learning their own lessons, but they volunteered to come back because they knew that they were powerful enough to take on the family lineage and break cycles because of where humanity is at in their journey. This is such a powerful time where the divine feminine is on the rise. And, we knew we volunteered to come here at this time because we knew it was necessary to heal the lineage. And so we came in strong enough to take on, and there's a lot of pain that goes with that. There's also a lot of blessings because, part of my lineage, I had a great great grandmother who was a medicine woman with Native American tribes, First Nations, really. And so I get to access those frequencies as well. And yet at the same time, with that, if you consider the era that she was in, it's during colonization. So there has to be a lot of oppression in her lifetime and a lot of giving up your traditional beliefs and being forced into the colonization in the European way of looking at things. So there will be leftover unhealed emotions. And it's funny that I said oppression because that's one of the things that gets me the most. If I start feeling oppression, it gets big. And it's like it's not in proportion to what I personally am experiencing. And when that happens, that's a really big clue that you're dealing with ancestral leftovers. And what I've been doing, Clementine, is doing the actual lineage, doing historical, doing searching my family tree. And I sit when I learn their names and where they are from, and then I look at their era and I try to put it in perspective of what I know about history at that time. And then I will sit in myself. I'll go in and I'll sit with that person and see what I'm supposed to have learned and what I'm taking on and what my purpose is with that part of her lineage or his lineage. And always, 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 I make sure that they understand that I love them and that I don't judge that they weren't able to complete whatever cycle they didn't complete that is now mine to complete. And so there's no guilt or anything, but at the same time, they also left us prayers. The ancestors prayed for us. Okay, First Nations people will talk about 7 generations. What you do, what you think, and how you feel affects 7 generations. 3 before you, yourself, and 3 after you. And if you think about that, it's it's the generations that you can touch. It's your great grandmother, your grandmother, your mother, your fathers, then yourself, then your daughters, your granddaughters, and your great granddaughters. And First Nations people, the word for great grandmother and the word for great granddaughter is the same word, which describes the cycle. And in that manner, it's easy to understand that if if I make a change and raise my frequency here in this body, in this era, it will ripple out in both directions. So it does, in fact, change the frequency of the past. Does it change what happened? It does not. But by managing our own frequencies, we change, we transform, and raise the frequency of the tie that binds us. And so we release, let's say, trauma, we release the trauma, we release the weight that goes with that, and then we're free of that. And then our frequency is high, and we maintain that frequency, and that is now that frequency has disappeared from our lineage. It's no longer part of that braid or part of our river. Okay? And the other thing I wanted to touch on that's a beautiful Native American teaching, they talk about, I'm going to say Native American because that's what most people do, but I call these, I call, for me, it's First Nations peoples. But so that everybody knows who I'm talking about, I will go with Native American. It's not very comfortable, but there I am. So one of the teachings, there's 7 levels of creation. And one of the levels of creation is um, tied to Inti, grandfather son. Grandfather son. And in every ceremony, thanks is given to grandfather son, who's responsible for those actions in our body that pump, release, pump, release, pump, release. So the heart and the lungs. So the heart circulates our blood, our plasma, our inner waters, and our lungs circulates the air, the wind that we breathe, the sacred breath of Creator, the sacred breath. When we are born, we we cry, we scream, we release our sacred breath, and we take in Pachamama's breath. And when we take that breath in, this is where we take in all the lineage of our families. And one of the levels of creation, grandfather son, that we give thanks for, is that grandfather son gives us our shadow. And our shadow is indeed the entities of our ancestors following us, protecting us, and guiding us. They are always with us. And so our ancestors are always with us. We breathe the same air. The same air they breathe is going in and out of our lungs. Their blood is pumping through our veins, and we are connected to our ancestors with our feet on the ground. Our shadow connects us to Mother Earth. So it's our ancestors that keep us connected to Mother Earth. So there's another way of looking at our shadow, you know, where when we put away everything that we aren't able to handle, and then you come back and you do your shadow work later, it's your ancestors that are helping you with that. Your ancestors are holding all that. And when you decide to do your um, lineage healing, you're not really, there's nothing new there. It's just something being revealed. It's like when you walk into the room and turn the light on. Everything was there, you just didn't see it, And so now when you want to look at your lineage, you just bring some awareness, go and look in your family tree and then go, oh, I just used to think it was just so cool. Like I had these visions of my great grandmother, Indian Indian pictures, that we see in the history books, just out in the grass with her medicine peace pipe and just being an Indian. And then when I as an adult, and you look at the timing, and then all kinds of realizations come in, and some of the stories that you were told, you find out, like after you study with somebody like Puma, you start realizing some of these kind of ritualistic or quirky little things that people thought other people were doing, were those people were actually performing ceremonies that nobody knew about. They were doing acts of protection for their family and such things. And so some of the stories that I've heard my grandmother tell about my great grandmother, her grandmother, it's like it has a whole new meaning to me since I've studied with Puma. And so just bringing an awareness to the lineage without expectations and not blame. It isn't really, you don't want to approach it like you are trying to reject your family at all. It isn't that at all. You just want to transform the tie that binds. You want to bring that up to a higher frequency. Is all. And when that happens, then the light that you bring, and again, that's what karma is. How much light, how little light, how much light, how little light. That's all karma is. I send light out, I will get more back. I send darkness out, I will get more back. All of those are self-generated for what I do. So if you expand that to what's left over from what your ancestors have done, what's in your river? Well, there's good stuff. There's minerals and gems come in the river. Those beautiful river rocks, those come in the river. All the rainbows and all that beautiful light just bubbling down the river. And then, but you get the debris. You get the debris. And what do you do with that? Right? So when you bring awareness to your lineage, you just is not in a manner of rejection or judging, because what came to me with part of my lineage is there's a lot of play the martyr, play the martyr. And that's a big one for me because I did it well for a long time. And then when you stop doing it, people around you will get mad. They will get so mad. That's okay. That is okay. Um, and so now that's a big trigger. It's very, very obvious to me. But then as I was doing this new lineage search, looking at where they were at in history, completely makes sense. And could you possibly judge? You can't. They didn't have the same choices we had. So to judge them from our perspective will be counterproductive to healing their lineage. You just want to accept where they were and love them. Tell them that's okay. And then you spend time and look at it and sit at where does that pattern show up in your life? How are you supporting that pattern now? And by maintaining your own frequency, that's what sends the light out to your lineage in both directions. And then your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren won't have to do this. It's removed from their lineage. The frequency just simply stops existing. And that's all you have to do about it. And that's just like changing your own inner world. Sorry I took so long, Clementine. That was quite quick.
That was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry. What I really like about is what Robin is saying is become aware also what that this lineage is not all only the garbage from the old lineage what we are carrying. It's all the beauty also, and it's also. Um, that sometimes when you are stuck in your life right now and you do the work you have to do for yourself, but still get stuck, then it's time to look also at your lineage. From what do you carry with you from this lineage that can help you unstuck yourself and therefore the future generation that they don't have to go through that anymore. And what Robin also was explaining about the seven generations, so the three behind you and then the three in front of you. Um, in my experience is that I had to go way further back, and I knew this. I want to say story, but it's not a story; it's a knowledge. What Robin was telling about her lineage, and I was thinking, why did I have to go further back than three lineages, three generations? And then I was thinking, but this is a knowledge of peoples who are used to do that, who are used to live in this way. And probably Robin has had quite some wise people in this lineage that did this job. Probably in my lineage and also in the part of the world where I'm living, so Northwestern Europe, it's such a long time ago that we have had people who lived with this kind of wisdom. That is more generations back than three. So I had to go further back in my lineage to to um, to free for apart the lineage of the garbage, to and also become in contact with other knowledge from that lineage. So not what we said already, not only the dirty part, the nasty part, and the ugly part, but also the beautiful part. So, and what I like also, for instance, when I just look at my father, in the time he lived, he and he lived a different life as I did. So and he died. I was not really young, but I didn't really know him at this time he lived. I always say I started to learn to know him since he's dead, and working with his lineage, for instance, I have got so much wisdom from this lineage that I'm so glad about. And yes, there were some things in this lineage also, what also blocked that this knowledge could come out. And since I've helped, it's not me that is doing that. I'm just helping the process. That the nasty part could go away. All this knowledge is freed to be lived by me or through me and through all the other generations, the younger generations of my lineage. So, working with ancestral lineages is incredibly interesting. It can be also a little bit hard sometimes, where there happened a lot of nasty stuff in the past, especially with feminine lineages. And sometimes you can feel the emotions of the person who lived that in that time. But it's also in the way I'm thinking and in the way I'm feeling, it's also a kind of connecting. And so feeling, so it's like a good friend is telling you a terrible story, and you feel with that friend. And this is the same thing. It's somebody in my past who I've never known tells me a terrible, sad, and painful story. Of course, I feel with that person, and also that's at least my belief. When I hear stories like that, and my ancestors are telling me that kind of stories, then it will bring me also something. It's not only the pain, but it brings me also wisdom, but also I can do something with that experience in this life also. And so probably I can see then later on, oh, I have had a kind the same experience. Oh, so I can deal with it like this, so your ancestors also, when they are not uh, um, in human form anymore, but in soul form, they can still help you so much in your life right now. It's a giving and taking. So you giving a lot about um, 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 how do you say that, the frequency that you make the frequency of the energy higher, and so with that you help a lot also the ancestors in where they are now. For many people, um, so when I hear people speak about lineages, I sometimes get the feeling that perhaps don't have a body anymore, but they are still alive, but they talking like them as if they are dead. And that's not right. So their soul is still alive. And in that soul form where they are now, I'm almost turning around. but in the soul form they are now, they are still alive and they still can hear you and they still can see you, and you can still do something good for them and they can do something good for you. So it's that when you give something, you get also something back. And um, um, that's the beautiful part of working with lineages, is that it goes always in two directions or three directions. So when I'm talking about a lineage in the past, I get it back, but it goes also forward to the next generations. So I think that's a and I don't want to say uh, how do I say say it in a nice way? It can be rough. It can be very rough working with your lineage. Um, um, uh, uh, I have experience in a rough lineage, and um, um, but that shouldn't stop you for doing it. And I have had times that it was really too rough. And then there is always help. You have always what we call allies, and also other parts of the lineage. And other people from the lineage that can be from the other lineage, from when the rough part is in your mother's lineage and your father's lineage can help. But you have also other allies, and you cannot do every rough thing that happened in a lineage and that is coming towards you at that you it's not everything is your task. When it's too much, it's too much, and then you have allies, and then you have to ask your allies for help. Robin?
You could also ask a friend like Clementine.
Oh, Robin.
Yeah. There are people here that can help you too. But along with what Clementine is saying, um, our ancestors also had allies. And when we transition, when we pass away, when we die, however you want to look at that transition, we're not dead. We don't stop. Our journey's not over. This 3D experience is a tiny, tiny, tiny drop in our soul journey. And when we transition, we continue our soul journey. So our ancestors in soul form are still continuing their journey. And our lineage, out in the geodynamic energetic formation of the earth, are like these little rivers of energy that are earthbound. They are bound to the earth. They are generated from the earth, flowing in all the directions. Okay. Our lineages each belong on one of those frequencies. So we inherit that frequency, that lineage. If I make a change by transforming trauma, oppression, since that's where I started, if I'm working with oppression and I come into a certain um experience that one of my ancestors had, and I sit with that, and then I experience whatever feelings I have, and the visions come to me on what experience that person was having, and then I can dialogue with that ancestor, and what did you learn? What did you learn from that trauma? Because that's also the gift being handed, and they would stand with two hands. Here's the trauma. Here's what happened. Here's what I couldn't heal. You've inherited that. But also, I also developed, as in my ancestor, also developed resilience, and you've inherited that too. Both of those are mine to bring forward. Well, now, knowing the story of my ancestor makes it a lot easier for me to release that pattern in my life, because the whole pattern is not just mine. A lot of that pattern was subconscious, and not my emotions at all, just what I inherited. So bringing awareness to that and releasing with gratitude, with gratitude. Gratitude is always the secret. With gratitude that my ancestor was strong enough to withstand that my ancestor developed resilience instead of bitterness, maybe, you know? And there's a lot to be grateful for, that I have the knowledge, that I know that I can communicate with my ancestor and find these stories and these gifts and these traumas and the lessons that we're working on. And when I do, and I raise my vibration, well, then you see that frequency is gone out of that river. So our lineage frequency is always there. And the ancestors are always, they're still on their journey on that lineage. And when I put more light from here, this 3D position on the lineage, that changes the frequencies that they have to work with their prayers, and helping me with my prayers, and my children and their children, etc., will automatically begin with a higher frequency to bring the lineage forward. So the more the rivers of the lineage, earthbound, they are always there. And we all, like, each family, each community, each country, each region, blah blah blah, we all have a frequency that we came here to express. We agreed, I will be this here now to maintain the balance of Mother Earth's stance, her journey. So I have agreed to come and be Robin at this point in history, because I can take on my family lineage and I can heal a lot of it. I can break a lot of cycles. It's just really been a purpose of mine, is to break cycles. It's crazy. Like, I realized I was breaking cycles before I knew what that meant. And so it's, it can be very harsh, and yet it's, it's so much gratitude that I approach it with, because once you get in there and you start playing around with it, and you bring awareness, and you see how it starts to play out in your life. Patterns where you were stuck and you didn't know why. Like money is a good one for family stuff. If you've got a family who you trace your lineage back, and you came from castle living and royalty, chances are pretty unlikely you've got money problems now. But if you trace back and you came from peasants and, and nomads and people who had nothing to do with money, and you have money issues now, but you put in all the work, you've got your 20-year plan, and you've stepped and you've manifested, and you do all the things, but you're still stuck, that's lineage. That's lineage. Then you go back and you find where the lineage, like a lot of people, we have ancestors who remember coming through the depression, and they do things like they save things that everybody else throws away, you know, and there's positives and negatives to all of that. But the point is, some people will come through the depression in one lineage will see that as a challenge to rise above. Another lineage never made it out. Like if people died from starvation or no place to live, then see, so everybody's lineage experienced the depression, but in a different way, and there will be different gifts. But even in what looks like a negative, there's a very positive gift to be grateful for. You receive both with gratitude, and the point is not to um extinguish anything, but to bring it into balance. It's all just bring it all into balance with what's happening with you now. It's like I personally am one of those people who I save everything, and I'm not a hoarder, not like that. But it's like I could be. I could go there. but but it's like I write up, and it's like I ration it out. So it's like make sure, and I that is habits that I saw my grandmother do because she was a young mom during the Depression, and yet at the same time, First Nations teachings is you never take more than what you need, and so I have that where it's like, okay, well I could be doing that, rationing out and planning all my stuff, making sure I'm not throwing things away from fear-based habits out of my grandmother surviving the Depression, or I can bring all of these habits, I can bring awareness to the fact that I'm doing those habits, copying my grandmother, and then I can raise that frequency to never take more than what you need, living in balance with Pachamama, because she always gives everything we need unconditionally. It is always there. So by raising that habit to a different awareness, bring a different awareness to the habit, I haven't really changed my habit. I've just kind of changed a little bit of why and how I do it. You see, and for me, I understand that as raising the frequency of that pattern that I have in my life. And when I do that, then gifts start to show up, you know? And it is wonderful because then you realize when all of a sudden you'll have a realization that you're not stuck anymore. And then you can sit with that for one extra little minute and realize I've just changed the lineage, and just kind of sit in that and just let that be, let that light flow out, because it's going to flow to the past, to the present, and to the future. And that's all you have to do. It's not about rejecting anything. It's not about fixing anything. Please don't go into this trying to fix your lineage. That's not going to happen. It's not fixing. It's bringing into balance, bringing awareness and acceptance and gratitude, and just try a little visual of sitting, breathe in and breathe out, remembering that breath that you're breathing in and out, your ancestors breathed the same one. You can feel their presence when you feel your heart. That is their blood pumping through your veins. And connect, just sit in there and connect with that. And then an ancestor will show up, and you have a conversation with them and ask them, what do you have? What do you have for me? Why? What do you want to give me? And accept with gratitude, and then implement it with balance.
What I want to give a little bit more attention, Robert said it already in the beginning, but you as a soul choose your parents and these times. And many people want to get other parents at certain times in their life, but it's you who choose them. So don't bother your parents with it. And so you have to look at yourself for it. But what I'm trying to say is also it can be a rough time, but these rough times are the biggest lessons. And later on in life, when you went through everything, through the hard parts and through the beautiful parts, and everything what you had to do, but what you gave, what you get back, and what you can give to the future generations. Um, and when you are more and more in connection with your own soul and with your soul agreement, not only the agreement of where you are born and with in which with which parents, but also what your task here in this world. And then you will learn and will see that a lot of that what you have learned through going and working with these lineages and learning from this lineage, that it is helping you on your path from your what your soul agreement is, and that you needed those rough parts, and that you needed also the beauty, and um, therefore it's so important that for everything from this lineage, what Robin already said a few times, is the gratitude. Also being grateful, and you don't you do not understand completely why you have had to learn that or experience that. Just be grateful. You will learn later on in life what it had brought you. And um, what I'm thinking now also is that Robin said it also for a part, but she said it a little bit different. The water in our world and the air in our world is as old as Mother Earth, Pachamama. Robin talked a few times about Pachamama. When you don't know what that is Mother Earth. That's the name we use for Mother Earth. And so the water and the air is as old as Pachamama, Mother Earth, is. So this air, what you breathe in at this moment and breathe out, can be also I don't know how to say it correctly in English, but your great 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 grandparent probably breathes also in and out. And when you also understand that this air is conscious and has memory, just connect with the air and say, but it can also that tin, just breathe it in and breathe it out. But connecting with your grandparents, we use from the beginning the river, the water, but you can also use air. So the water is as old as Mother Earth also. So all the water that's in your body, that's 80% about. It can be that there are still some remembrance of your great 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 grandmother or father in it. So um, look at it more in the totality, what life is all about, and not about heavy or it. Sometimes it is hard, as I said already. But then you have to call a friend like Robin or an ally in the cosmos, or or my dog helps me also with this kind of thing sometimes. but but it's such a beautiful thing, and it's such a lot of wisdom, and it can enrich you so much um, as a soul, but also as a human. And um, um, just a small um, example. My father was a teacher. He knew a lot of about history and the Dutch language. And sometimes when I don't know what it is, and I am or too lazy to look at the computer, or I am in the forest and there is no computer or anything, then I ask, Father, what is this and this and this? And I just wait. But in the time my father was alive, I also had to wait. He always said, I don't know. And then, you had to shut up 5 minutes, and then it came out, and now it's still the same. I have to wait. I see my father laughing right now. and and you have to wait 5 minutes, and then it comes. And um, um, for what reason, I want to know that at that time in the forest, probably, I don't know, about a bird. My father also knew a lot about birds. So you can connect the more you are connected with your lineage, the easier it is to connect with your ancestors and speak with them and ask them and all kinds of things.
I also want to add that I knew when I was actually talking to my ancestors because it wasn't fluffy. They were not gentle or always praising. They call me out, not nicely. They just call me out. And I see other people, oh, had this beautiful visual, and I was all this beautiful light and rainbows and unicorns, and that's not your ancestors. Then you're not talking to your ancestors, because your ancestors will not be all fluffy and gentle with you. So if you're having all this beautiful, lovely experience, yeah, maybe want to go a little bit deeper. Yeah, because it's, I want to say there's always, but then you run into trouble with always. But typically there'll be discomfort. There'll be discomfort because what you're trying to do is heal, transform what was left unfinished. Is left unfinished because it was uncomfortable. So by necessity, you're looking for something that's not going to feel comfortable. So if you're getting rainbows, unicorns, you're not getting true answers. Okay, and then you just want to maybe grab a friend or another ally and go a little bit deeper. Sometimes when you're there, it's because you're afraid. You're afraid of what you're gonna find for whatever reason. That might be your ego afraid that they're going to have to let go of something. And, we're attached to our patterns. We've had this discussion. That's our security blanket. So your ego perceives it's going to have to give up its security blanket. It's going to be resistance. And that doesn't always look like resistance. It can come wrapped in rainbows and unicorns. And then you just don't go further. And the ego is safe to hang on to its own nonsense. So that is a good time for you to realize that asking for help is a good idea. Clementine and I are really good at asking for help. Not so much. So we understand you don't want to ask for help, but that's your big sign that you should be asking somebody for help is when you're getting all rainbows and unicorns and because probably what's going on is that you are operating on a fear-based pattern of your lineage and you can't heal something that you're not aware that isn't your own. And it is we've inherited these lineages, we've expressed things as ourselves. We perceive it as part of our own identity when it's not. And so I think this would be a really good time to ask someone for help.
It's not only, at least not with me, fear-based, that I'm thought that I had to do more than I did, other way, that I did more than I should be. It's more that I was thinking that that was my task, and that it was my task to do everything. And also, when it almost killed me, then it's still my task. And um, um, now I've learned that it shouldn't kill you, and I've learned also that it should be possible. So I have tried a lot of time to make the impossible possible. And therefore I suffered way more than I should be. And later on, I've learned that I can ask Robin, or I can ask an ally to help me with it. And um, that makes it so much more easy and pleasant, and it makes it so much more that you don't need to suffer. I've when I'm honest, I suffered a lot with lineages, because what I already said, I took too much on what wasn't mine, and that was not fear-based. That was just what I thought was my task in this world, and when that is a task in my world, so I will do it. But that's not always the way it should be. I don't know if you want to say something more, otherwise we can make an end on this podcast. That sounds terrible, I think, in English ears. I think that.
It's a good place to end.
Thank you. When we talk so much about that, then my language changes all of a sudden towards that. Um, we would like you to talk a little bit about your work on your lineage in the comments down below, when you want, at least. What your experience is. Do you have a question about work? As we ended this podcast, ask for help. We are here for helping. So feel free to put a comment in down below, Robin.
And on that note,
Yes.
with gratitude and balance, just gratitude and balance, my friends. And please, if you need anything, just drop it down in the comments. We read them all. We'll get back to you. For true.
Have a beautiful day. Till next week.